Hello friends, welcome. In another video about footprint. In the previous category, I taught you some things. In this video, I want to teach you some features of the footprint order flow trader finder indicator and see what capabilities this indicator can provide you to help you make minute by minute trades. What those features can be? Well, when you install this indicator on your NinjaTrader, you can access its options from the panel that appears at the top of your chart. Click on it and enter the settings section. Right at the beginning of the settings in the general section, it gives you a very powerful and robust feature, allowing you to use this indicator in 3 different modes. The first option available is the one that after you select it, since it needs to perform a series of calculations on your chart.
7 powerful volume trading indicators: footprint, volume profile, and fast scale. Level up your trading.
You need to confirm the settings so that these calculations are performed. And in fact, you can see the changes on your chart. These specific changes can actually be based on certain complex settings and various parameters that have been carefully applied to the system. You can clearly see all of the individual filters that have been set in this particular section of the indicator. So you can easily see for each of the different items that you can filter, allowing for a much more detailed and comprehensive overview of your current data configurations, what values have been considered based on which the symbol you're actually trading, it can be different. The next option is the automatic option. If we select automatic again, because it needs to perform some calculations, it will take some time, and after it loads, it will apply a series of settings to the chart. They are applied to your chart, and again, to see what filters have been created for you in another section on the Film Finder logo. There is actually a triangle shape. When you click, you will see the auto filter section. And by clicking on the auto filter section, these are filters that are actually time-based, meaning they have divided the day into 24 hours. And while there are also some other filters, various options have been set for you here, and you can see the numbers here, which again are based on different symbols and can vary. You can use these two features automatically and with AI, artificial intelligence. You can use them, and of course, you should base it on your strategy, market conditions, and these are the specific essential factors that you might want to carefully review and then see whether they are truly helpful for your goals or perhaps not at all. The next and final option is the manual option, where you set the parameters yourself manually. That's what we're doing right now because we want to apply the settings ourselves. In some cases, you need to have a set of automatic settings. You might not have the volume set equally. In fact, it's possible. The market might experience significant changes that require you to act automatically or through a system so that these changes can be calculated and you can, in fact, the various complex situations that occur within that specific symbol, or as they often say, are unpredictable. However, we can now use advanced AI-driven algorithms or automatic calculations to obtain them, visualize them clearly on your chart, and effectively make use of them. Well, when you set this indicator to manual mode, it will no longer, these are things you can manually apply yourself, and you can use one of them. There's also another option available on these indicators. You can view the times when the market sessions are active, which here you can see as a session grid related to the trading sessions. That's what it is. You can see the Sydney, Tokyo, Shanghai, Frankfurt, London, and New York sessions, and you can view them as a toolbar at the top or bottom of the chart, right at the bottom of the chart. You can see them, and of course, you can also choose the color scheme you prefer for them, because each of these sessions consists of several parts. For example, pre-open, before the session opens, the time when it opens, the actual middle of the session, the end time of the session, and the closing time of the session, and other details that you can specify with colors so that you know. Basically, you can see exactly where you are within the session or sessions that are currently active. The next option, which I also explained to you in previous videos, and as you saw, it relates to the right and left sides of the candle. which actually displays the footprint, and you use this feature a lot. However, different people and different trading systems might have different formats. They display this process, and generally, footprints have a right and left side, and the numbers and volumes that are exchanged within these candles are shown on the right and left sides of the candle, and generally, by default, the right side of the candle is actually formed by the buyers, and the left side of the candle is formed by the sellers. But of course, you might see different examples of footprints in various environments, different social media platforms, or different tools like Quantower and so on. In such cases, you may have come across other types of footprints. For example, you might not see anything on the left side of the candle, and on the right side of the candle, you actually see the sell orders together. Right now, it doesn't display this precisely, so as that gap increases, the shape should also change a bit. It should be a bit larger. Now, this is actually an example of the candles that people might see in Quantower. You can see here that I've placed the sell and buy on one side.
Learn and enter the world of binary option with us. Binary option indicators, powerful strategies, learn, trade, win. Level up your trading.
But you're seeing both of them together, and there's no difference. Now, if you take a look over at the right side of the screen, we can clearly see the buyers listed there, while simultaneously on the left side, the system is showing me all of the active sellers. This serves as just one specific example of how these various market things are displayed within the interface, which you are more than welcome to review in greater detail at your own convenience. Well, there are other options as well. You might also want to consider using delta volume, specific contracts, or even ATS candles within some of your trading strategies. See, right here in the interface, you have the convenient option to assign a side candle for better analysis. You can set it according to what you need, adjusting the right and left sides based on that. Well, these options might be useful for you in some of the next setting factors. I will definitely mention this in more detail later, why these options exist, so you can apply filters on the footprint side. Well, the next option is related to the volume profile of each candle, as you can see here. Volume profile. Basically, it's the range where the highest volume has occurred, both on the buy and sell side. It shows that in fact it's 68%, but most of us set the normal and average to 70% so that it displays the POC, which is fine. This is also one of those features that always exists in all footprints. You can see it, and we've also considered another feature called the POC signal on this indicator, which makes it much more visually appealing, in my opinion. You can review this feature. It works in such a way that when a POC is located on the shadow of a candlestick, this also works in such a way that if it is placed on the upper shadow of the candlestick, it actually issues a sell signal. And if it is placed on the lower shadow of the candlestick, it issues a buy signal for you. The reason for this is that, in fact, if we review this example, you can see that this POC, or the highest volume of buying and selling in this candlestick, is actually located on the shadow and in the lower part of the candlestick, while the body is higher. As a result, the candlestick has been pushed upward and closed, and this, well, to a significant extent, this leads us to believe and strongly suggest that the overall volume of active buyers and sellers, or the total volume that has been traded, is currently quite high and has been able to drive the market price significantly higher, and it could possibly continue its upward momentum in the near future. This could create an upward price movement for us, and of course, the opposite can also happen on the upper shadows. In this case, this signal is not a signal that can indicate a trend reversal on its own. It is not a standalone entry signal. It can be used alone for trading, but it can be useful in various situations. For example, in binary options trading, it can sometimes serve as a standalone signal, depending on which price range we are in. And the next option available in this section of the volume profile is that it can display the entire volume profile for you, both at the top and bottom, which is exactly what you are seeing here with the volume bars on the candles. Another thing that is used in strategies and is also utilized here, and you can map it in the footprint order flow and see how it is applied. This part is related to imbalance on these imbalances. We can examine and analyze them both on the individual tick data section and also on the standard candles. First, I will thoroughly review the process with you on the candles, so you know exactly how it actually works. On the imbalance option, the first available option is show bar imbalance. Now, when I enable this, here I have an example and I'll explain to you how to calculate this. When we want to calculate these imbalances on candles, this is how you do it. This factor is applied to the candle's delta in such a way that now I have set the coefficient of the delta to 2. As you can clearly see right here, this specific candle that has a noticeable imbalance is at 94. My own fill level is also exactly 94. And if we look back, the previous candle is sitting at 237. As you can see, it has more than half, more than twice the delta of its previous candle, and this is what it's showing us. There's another filter on these candle imbalances where we can set a minimum volume for that candle to be considered. If there is a candle that doesn't actually have that volume, then the validity and strength of this imbalance is weak and we can filter it out. For example, here my candle has a volume of 222. If I set this filter to 250 now, and since it's a computational operation, I need to click OK for the calculation to be performed. As you can see, it no longer displays this candle with that ratio bar for me because it didn't pass the filter. But in these balances, you can also apply such a filter in the tick section, meaning the buy and sell spread. You can apply such a filter, and in the show tick section of these balances, you can view these balances. As you can see, there is also a situation here that has occurred between buyers and sellers, which again, just like this, in fact, each of these balances has a coefficient and a volume. The first coefficient relates to the ratio between the buy and sell sides. The next part refers to the minimum volume that exists on either the buyer or seller side. So for example, if I consider this as C here, you can see here 11 and 41 have a gap of almost 4 times or more, and our volume is also greater than C. If I set this volume, for example, to 60 in this example where it was 11 and 41, you won't see it anymore. And once I confirm that change, you can clearly see that I no longer have 11.41 displayed here. Well, generally speaking, it is much better to set our ratio bar, which essentially means our candlestick coefficient, to a value of 3 and keep the volume at 250. For this balanced tick as well, it is highly recommended to set the coefficient to 3 and keep the tick at 40. In fact, when we are carefully considering the volume for even this specific balance, it is much better that we maintain these precise parameters for the best result. The amount is set to 40. Well, in the balance section, there's also a part that displays the supports and resistances for you. It actually aggregates two price ticks together and sums them up. If the conditions for support and resistance are met, it will draw a band over those two price ticks for you, which can be helpful in some cases. But it really depends on where in the market this happens. In fact, when it occurs in the middle of the market, it doesn't perform very well. So you need to be aware of this and you can use it accordingly. Other things you can see on the footprint chart include big volume, big delta, big contracts, and big ATs. These are cases where you can set up filters on the volumes. You can also create a color scheme for the volume so that you can very easily identify which volume has occurred in that area and in that particular candle. You can also see at which price tick that volume has occurred, and you can set it up to show up to two levels. In other words, you can categorize the volume by price tick and display it as well. Now, you can have it displayed either on the chart or on the candle itself, and you can see similar features. The same applies to delta. You can apply two filters, both on the candle's delta and on the tick. These can be helpful in various candle and market conditions. Or for example, if we want to look at a sample, right here we have a candle that's at 237. Let's set it up. Let's take a look at this as well so we can see it more clearly. This candle's delta is 237, And as you can see, that's a good thing. In fact, our first bar, that is the big delta, or our first one, is higher. It's between 1 and 2. Well, its color has changed to this color, and here we can see it completely visually in the lower section. If I also enable the delta display on the candle, now, as you can see, this 237 is highlighted with color around it, and it's indicating this to you as well. And that's it. Well, now I don't need to do that because it gets too cluttered if I enable it on the candles. The next section is the popular contract section and the contract volume, which you can also view both on the price ticks and on the candles. Let me enable the contract report table for you as well. So you can see that the items with a box drawn around them are the ones where my filtering has been applied and they have managed to pass that filter. So a box has been drawn around them, and there are many cases where people might want to use contract. In your strategy where you are actually using indicators, this conversion gives you the section of ATSs. That is actually the average trade sizes, which relate to the ratio of the total volume of the candle by the total number of contracts in the candle. In fact, is it this contract divided by this? Actually, it's this volume divided by this contract, which shows you the average trade size. Let me put the lower margin, which actually belongs to the candle, into the table report for you so you can see it. Now, I will show you the ATS. Now, actually, 1,409 divided by 820 should give us a number within this range. Let's check it. Let me get a calculator so we can see exactly whether it's correct or not. If we take 1,409 and then divide that by the contract amount, how much exactly does it come to? It looks like it is 820. So the final result comes out to be approximately 1.72. It is clearly displayed here for us, and every single one of the other items is built upon the exact same core foundation, and you can utilize the ATS system as a multiple of both volume and contract. You can use it so that the larger these numbers get, it actually indicates that the volume is a bigger number compared to the contract, and a larger volume has been entered in a single contract. In that candlestick and that price tick, which indicates that, well, up, this means that powerful, sophisticated, and highly strategic smart money is actively flowing into the market. These players have the capacity to either sustain the current momentum of an existing trend or even completely shift the overall direction of the market trend, except in very rare cases. For that, the next topic is about volume markers, which, well, you can actually display those volumes that are highly aggregated in one area and have occurred at a specific price tick, which right now is actually set on filter 3220. These cases, for example, if you set them here to 150 and 193, which together add up to 343 in total, it displays for you the highly aggregated total buy and sell, which you can view in a tree format, because the cases that are actually applied to the buy and sell volumes are shifted left and right, and if you want to see a place directly. Now look here, Davis 8 Direct has a very high cluster, but the weekly dashes have a medium cluster, but their total forms a very strong cluster, meaning a very strong hedge, which you can see right here in this same candle. You can see that it has moved between the high volume area and their request. In fact, the price is moving downward. And since we are looking at the footprint and with the range of 8, actually on the price chart, we might witness a very good decline here. And the delta marker is the same way, meaning in cases where the gap is very large, we have it here. The chart shows me this, and it can be very helpful in many situations. Contract markers are the same way. They show the difference between buy and sell contract. It displays this for me, but I don't really know how to get started with it. I should prepare that, and ATS works the same way. In fact, ATS also shows me that price tick, which is good because I can use the strategies that are available for ATS in situations where it can be helpful to reverse the price or for entry. In fact, smart money banks and professional traders, it can show them, which can be helpful. Another point is that this can be observed in this indicator. They are delta divergences. Delta divergences There are specific cases where you might see some individual candles whose delta values are significantly different, depending entirely on the specific type of candle being analyzed. That is, if a candle is bullish and its delta is negative, or if a candle is bearish and its delta is different. I'm going to zoom in much closer on these individual candlestick patterns and look through the chart, to see if I can identify a clear and perfect example for you right now. Whether we are seeing the presence of delta divergences here or not, right now, specifically in this local area, we can clearly observe a perfect example of a delta divergence occurring. Delta divergences are actually found in swings and gaps. They capture the divergence in this indicator. Right here, I have a positive delta and a negative candle, which, well, is also present in the market depth, and it's showing that to you. There are other cases as well, but to avoid making the video too long, I'll cover them in the next parts of the video. I'll also explain the final points about the footprint to you so that nothing related to the footprint is left out, and we can make the most out of this chart and the topics related to the footprint. Among the features available on this indicator, you can take advantage of the footprint order flow or ETF DAB, and you can develop good strategies with it. You can message support, use the indicator as it's free, and download it. Be sure to follow and subscribe to me on social media, especially YouTube, so you don't miss the latest educational videos on binary options and volume trading. Get familiar with ICT, smart money, and your favorite strategies. Have a good day and goodbye.